Mno-Bmadsen from Cressy Commercial Real Estate, and today we have with us Julio Martinez from Mno-Bmadsen, which is an investment arm of the Pokagon band of Potawatomi Indians. Welcome, Julio.
Thank you, Kenny. Good to see you.
Yeah. So I want to ask you a couple questions today about the investment arm and kind of how COVID has affected everything. So kind of diving into the pandemic, how has COVID affected this investment company?
Well, it has to differing extents. You know, it's the thing about the COVID emergency or pandemic is its uncertainty. And, you know, going back to the beginning of it, when the government rushed to put the Paycheck Protection Program into effect, which was very effective for us, we immediately applied for all of our companies. It was very uncertain, and if I assume your audience will know that the casinos were forced to shut down, which was the primary revenue driver for the tribal government and being able to provide for its citizens, which really is another reason, or actually the principal reason Mno-Bmadsen exists, is to diversify way to create other revenue streams so that when things like this happen, you're just not relying on one source of revenue. So that's part of our charter, part of what we do. So COVID affected the different companies that we have in our portfolio differently. And frankly, we don't know to what extent yet because it's not over.
Yep.
So we have a professional services, a couple of companies there. Those are architects and engineers. They weren't as affected because working remotely for architects and engineers is not difficult. It's a change, and working remote was kind of the biggest wrinkle and things we weren't used to. We were doing that somewhat. We're going to get pushed into full speed of working remotely as this started to get worse. That caused a lot of loss of efficiency. So, you know, we were just not as effective. Our employees are not as effective. Things take longer. When you bid projects out, you bid them at a certain margin based on how much time it's going to take to complete. It was taking longer. And that's where this Paycheck Protection Program really, at least to this point, provided a really good bridge. So assuming things get better sooner, which we're all hoping for, we'll have come out of this in a pretty good shape. Our professional services companies, we have Sundown Architecture and WBK Engineering. They've pulled through it so far in very good condition. We have a couple of manufacturing companies, and that's really the most uncertain branch because manufacturing is a very long sales cycle. It's a very long revenue cycle. So we don't really know the impacts of this for a very long time on those two companies, and we own two companies there. And it's still unknown exactly where that'll shake out. Our largest company by revenue is our construction company, and it has seen so there were a lot of jobs that were stopped, construction jobs that were stopped. When they started back up at different paces. That company works both in Indiana and Michigan. So you have different governors with different rules, and things get really complicated. So when you bid a job out to do certain work, now it's much more complicated. Your employees have to go in through a screening process and wear PPE and have exit process, and all this takes time. So we're seeing the effect there as well. Things are starting to ramp back up. I think the economy is poised to come out of this pretty strong. But for our existing companies, so far we've weathered it far better than most. We've had very little, if any, staff reduction, again, thanks to the Paycheck Protection Program and our ability to get through really tough times. We're starting to come out of it as restrictions start getting lifted. So things are looking good so far.
Good. So you kind of touched on this a little bit, but what kind of effect do you predict the pandemic to have come 2021 when hopefully the pandemic is over, at least somewhat over?
Well, I think there's a lot of things there's a lot of big variables coming up. We have an election, so we could have a change in leadership in the country that could dramatically change how things happen. And then we have just the virus itself, and are we going to have treatments, and are we going to have a vaccine? One of the points I didn't touch on, which is obviously a big deal to our partners there at Cressy. We also ventured into the real estate sector, partnering with Cressy, and have Hotel Elkhart, which was scheduled to have already been open. So there we saw probably the most pronounced effect. I think in the end that's going to come out fantastic. From what I've been able to see, there is an incredible demand for that type of hospitality, and it's in a great area. I was just out at Elkhart a couple of weeks ago, and the project's just going to be fantastic. So we're really excited about that project, and that's in I call it our current portfolio. Those are things we are already invested in, and we're looking to do some other things as well. But there's still a lot of uncertainty. I've started, and I've said this a few times. I think the next couple of months are going to be very telling, again, especially after the election, which is never, and whether or not we're able to get a vaccine. We're still in the middle of this uncertainty, I think.
Yeah, it's definitely hard to predict when there's so many other societal factors that have a play that we have no idea how they're going to work out. So it is hard to predict the future, but I think it's important. So obviously you mentioned being an investor in Hotel Elkhart. You also have another hotel project coming up. Can you touch on that a little bit?
Well, that's still in the planning stages. So we acquired some property near the South Bend Four Winds Casino. They were in the process of building a tower there, to a hotel tower. So that casino doesn't currently have a hotel on it. And what we noticed in New Buffalo is when the hotel opened there, there was an immediate over demand, if you will. The hotel was perpetually sold out, and they built another tower, and it was still perpetually sold out. So there's a tremendous demand once you open these large casinos for hotel space. Mm-hmm. So we tried to get ahead of it here, and strategically buy some property, and then start to look at the potential of building what we call an overflow hotel nearby. Okay. So that's not set in stone, and we're hoping that Cressy will be our partners on that investment as well. We kind of lean on, and that's my investment philosophy, and Chris Fielding, your CEO, knows it well. I think he tells the story better than I do from our recent conversation. We look for people to partner with us in investments that have expertise. So we certainly have investment capital, and we have expertise in the forms of the things I told you about. And in this particular case, we're talking about the synergies with Four Winds, of course, building it close by to the Four Winds South Bend, and using our ownership and our, obviously, the tribe's ownership of the Four Winds Casino. It would make sense that we work together in terms of overflow when the hotel is in a sold out capacity, mm-hmm. that they refer or even reserve blocks of rooms at our hotel. So I think it's going to be a really good investment. There's also talk about doing some other things on that site. So we're going to work with the city of South Bend and try to figure out the best way to position ourselves. It's also part of the South Bend area that's been kind of blighted. And so we're looking to do something really good for the area as well. So we're partnering. Yes, it's an investment, but it's also in our minds of strengthening our partnership with Cressy and working with the local city in helping the area redevelop and become a safe and exciting place for South Bend.
Yep. Thank you so much for your time, Julio.
You're welcome. You're very welcome. It's great to meet you, and congratulations and welcome to Cressy.
Yeah, thank you so much.